You're listening to the Live Free podcast. I'm your host, Christine, author, speaker, mentor, and guide. I'm here today to discuss living life after adversity, to discuss living life fully once again, a life of hope, peace, and resiliency, a life fully embodied. I utilize the lessons that I learned going through not one, but two primary cancers. I'm here today to guide you to your joy, turn your pain into power, and lead you back to yourself. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Live Free podcast. Today, I am coming on all by myself. It has been a while since I've done so. I know I've had lots of interviews with fantastic people that I have been loving. That has been so powerful and so exciting to be part of. I know that I've been in awe of so many fantastic people. But the other day, I met a fan of the podcast, a fantastic and brave soul cancer survivor, who said that some of my earlier podcasts, where it was just me talking, were more helpful than some of the interview type podcasts. And so, you know what? I took that feedback and I thought it was so beautiful and brave to share. And so that is exactly what I'm going to do is you're going to see me filtering back into the podcast with more of just me, talking about what's going on, probably intermittently, but nevertheless, I want to be part of the podcast and want to be as helpful as I can be to the people listening and to be able to continue the video or audio journal that this podcast has truly been for myself and hopefully for you too. So today, the topic that I'm going to be speaking about is the fear of being seen, the fear of being misunderstood, and how all of that ties in to my experiences as of late. So it's been a really long time since I was on the podcast and since I spoke, and a lot has happened since then. I've become a number one bestseller, which is so exciting. I wrote a book. I know that if you listen to the podcast, you have heard a little bit of a short podcast about it. I wrote a book and it came out and it became a number one bestseller, which is so cool and so exciting. I have begun to talk with people and create a motivational speaking career. I've done a few sessions now, and I've got a larger one coming up in November, which is really exciting. And hopefully that snowballs and becomes something really powerful. And then finally, I have decided to go back to school, as well as everything else that I do, for my registered professional counselor, because I want the people who I work with to be able to get coverage, because the more accessible that I can make my sessions, the more powerful it's going to be for the people that want my help but maybe can't financially handle it right now, which so many of us, when we go through adversity, are going through financial struggles. And so it just seemed like the next natural step. So in all of this, all of these really powerful moments, all of this really exciting stuff that's been happening in and around my life, I have suffered deeply in my self-worth. Now that makes no sense, does it? What kind of oxymoron is this that I should have all this success and my self-worth should plummet? It makes no sense. Well, the best I can describe it is, it seems to me that the bigger and broader you make yourself, the scarier and the more unlocks of different skeletons and fears and all those things come out of the said closet. And the more I grow, the more that I have to be online and the more that I open myself up to criticism and all of those things. And so my self-worth has plummeted and plummeted and plummeted. And not to mention, throughout all of this time that I've been working like a dog, through so much passion, and I absolutely love it. But my health has suffered in the sense that I have not worked out or eaten very well. I find myself snacking a lot and therefore have unfortunately gained a lot of weight. And so when you put all those things together in this mixed bag, you keep telling yourself you're fine. You've got all this success, but I've found that my self-worth has really plummeted and how I feel about myself. And this grip got tighter and tighter and tighter. And as time passed, I got more and more unhappy and worn thin and tired because I was working so much and not taking care of my body. And all of this culminated into this moment where I kind of lost my footing. And I was feeling really low and I reached out to a few wrong people and I had someone tell me that, that I'm not a good person, that I don't help people from a good place and that I should get over myself. Now, I'm not going to talk about who that person is. That's their journey and their opinion, and I respect their journey and opinion. But it was my first kind of soiree into someone who didn't know me having a misconception about the type of person that I am and the intentions that I have. And they truly are to help. I know if you listen to this podcast, you know my heart. I'm always questing to try to make a difference in the world, but I am the first person to say I'm imperfect, and I'm the first person to say that I have flaws and I try my best, but I don't always do a perfect job of it, and that's okay. And I have insecurities and fears just like everyone else. But it was my first kind of moment where I had to really look at my self-worth. I had to go, okay, I'm feeling really low. I'm having a really hard time. I'm tired and worn thin and unsure of who I am anymore, probably mainly because of burnout. And now this person, really dislikes me. And has opinions that aren't just, oh hey, like, you might be missing something here. It was no, it was instead you are a bad person. And I really plummeted for like a good week and a half. Like, and this wasn't that long ago. I really curled up in a ball and was like, I need to look at who I am and what I'm doing and are they right? And all these fears that come creeping in. And here's what I learned. I want to talk about kind of the fear of being seen and when it does hit that precipice, you were so fearful to be seen and then you tested the waters and you pushed yourself to be seen and it landed up that your worst fear was realized. You were rejected. And I want to talk a little bit about how I've gotten through that in the last few weeks and how maybe you can too if you're in a similar situation. Number one, I want to talk about what judgment is and how it plays into our psyche. Judgment has more to do with the person's perception of the world than anything else. That person's perception of what's wrong and right, the what they believe to be correct or incorrect, potentially some fears they have within themselves, whatever it is, that it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the context of reality that they live in. And I've talked about this in earlier podcast episodes, this context box of reality that we live in. If you have a belief that the sky is purple and everyone around you is telling you that it's blue, you're going to have a really difficult time stomaching that. And that's a simplified version, of course, but we all have a belief about the world around us. And none of it's wrong at all. None of it is wrong. It is all 100% what our experience is. And all of that is fine. And all of that is good. And all of that is to be respected by one another, to one another. Then, alongside the person who's doing the judging, the person who's receiving the judgment, the worst part about the painful part about judgment is the fear that you have within yourself about yourself. And that is, what if they're right? What if I am this or that? What if I haven't done enough in this way or that way? What if I'm not good? These types of fears that we have as people are normal and natural. And it is really, really difficult. Someone will say, oh, don't worry about them or whatever it is. But the fact of the matter is that it matters to you, especially if you're already in a place where you're having low self-worth or you're tired. And so remembering again that judgment is two things. One, the context box of reality that person has about their life and the lives around them. And the receiver of the judgment who has fears that they aren't enough, that they aren't worthwhile, that they aren't good. And those fears bubbling up to wonder whether or not the judgment is correct or not. It isn't anything about whether or not the judgment is correct. It is two people with fear, both receiving pain. One is giving the pain, which is painful to do, and the other is receiving the pain, which is painful to receive. And I'm not creating a podcast to call anyone out. And, like I said, I will not disclose who this person is. And I mean, you wouldn't know them anyway. It's just the nature of being seen and getting out there. But it really, really shook me. And so I had to ask myself the questions. Am I good? Am I doing the best that I can? Have I created something that is for others and not for myself? And I landed up with answers that were true and real to me, which is that I'm doing the best that I can with what I have. And I truly do have my heart in the right place. And so if you are fearful of being seen, my recommendation is to ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that someone could say about you or or the rejection that you might receive or how it may not pan out? And ask yourself if that's true. Because chances are it's just a fear that is normal and quite common for many people to have. Of course, there are people out there that refuse to look at themselves and will not ever feel low because of someone else's judgments. I mean, often we call those people narcissists, but nevertheless, most humans will fear that their judgment that they are receiving is a problem with them. And so remembering that judgment is something that you will have to deal with if it were to come to pass. If the fear of being seen, if you're being held back by the fear of being seen because you're fearful of judgment, then know that when that judgment comes to pass, that you can get through it, as I have. The next tip I have for you when you are fearful of being seen is to remember to shift your focus. Why are you telling your story or showing up or trying to help other people or writing a book or whatever it is that feels really good to you? It could be as simple as talking to friends and family and going out for coffee with them and telling your story to help relate with them, or as complex as trying to stand up on a stage or be part of a documentary or whatever it is. All of those things are fine and they are all just your preference and what feels good to you. But shifting your focus to remembering why you're doing this, why you're trying to be seen. And if your answer is to help people, then you're doing a great job. Keep moving forward because that's why we do what we do, isn't it? Next is to find evidence of your worth. Find how you feel worthwhile. Whether that be through helping people, which isn't entirely selfless. Let's be honest. It feels good to help people. But is it in helping people and having their eyes light up? Does that give you a sense of worth? Is it by realizing that you are a child of God and therefore inherently worthy? Is it by spending extra time with your family and being the best mother or father that you can be? Whatever gives you a sense of worth, gather evidence of that and then move forward, regardless of the judgment that may come to you. Keep moving for those people. I wanted to quit a few weeks ago. I was like, I'm done. Like clearly this person, must see something that I don't see. And I can't, I need to heed their warning and I need to stop. I need to curl up in a ball and just never try to help anyone ever again. But then I had to shift my focus into who it was that I was helping and why it is that I'm here and find evidence of my worth. And I would caution you to find evidence of your worth in other people only. Because that puts your power into their hands. So maybe evidence of your worth is how worthy you deem yourself to be, how fantastic your life has been. All of these different things, you don't have to always be extrinsic. It's not always whether or not someone is pleased by you. Because by putting the power in other people's hands, you open yourself up for judgment to hurt you that much more. I know this because it's true for me. I often put my worth in other people's hands, in whether or not the book sells or whether or not someone tells me that they listen to my podcast and enjoy it. I often will put my worth into whether or not the world is receiving me. And that opened me up to a lot of pain in the last few weeks. So I had to begin to look at myself and ask myself how I'm inherently worthy. Which brings me to my next point, which is the point of surrender. Realizing that you are, a child of God, universe, or source, and that you are inherently worthy by being here. That you are insignificant and nothing when it comes to the fabric of all things, but you are also everything because of the vibrant the vibrancy and the vibration that is within you. That beautiful sentiment came from my counselor and a fantastic woman who I can't wait for you to hear her episode. Or perhaps you already have. Suzanne is her name, and if you haven't already heard her episode, then go back and listen to it. I love what she says about surrender and about how you can begin to see such worth in yourself by realizing that you are part of this beautiful tapestry, the fabric that makes up life, and that you are more than just this body and this soul, and you are more than just this home that you live in or these friends that you have, that you are infinite and therefore inherently worthy. I find surrender and releasing yourself to the essence of who you are can really remind you of your inherent worth. The next is to practice safety in your body. If you have a fear of being seen, if you are trying actively to help people, chances are your self-worth is plummeting. That you are having a more and more difficult time really feeling because your bubble is so big, really feeling safe. When you're staying small, it's safe. It's really, really safe. You have your few friends, you have your small world, you have your routine. It's really, really, really safe. And it's beautiful. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. If that's something that fits for you, you go, girlfriend, because it is powerful to be in safety. But if you decide that you would like to be seen, be prepared for your self-worth and your safety to get a little rocky at times because you have opened yourself up vulnerably to more people. You do wonder whether or not you are enough to help those people. And so I would ask you in those moments to practice safety, whether that be, some deep breaths, realizing that you are safe in your body right now, getting present and surrendering to that. Whether that be doing a meditation or like a guided meditation around safety, or asking your body what it needs each day. Whatever it is that is going to help you feel safe in your body, it will help put your feet back on the ground. And I find when you are in a fear of being seen, you don't feel like your feet are on the ground. You don't feel grounded. And so practice safety would be my next point. And finally, remember that when you shine your light, when you really get out there and you are trying to do the best work that you can, the brighter you get, the more that people will do one of two things. They will either allow themselves to be enveloped by this light and they will gravitate towards you, or they will find your presence polarizing and they will push away from you. And both of those things are fine. It's totally, beautifully fine. It's how rooted you are in yourself that determines whether or not the fear of being seen will take over you. And so find evidence of your worth comes into point here, so that in those moments you can remember how beautiful and powerful you are and how you are trying to do the very best that you can with what you have. And a bonus tip is to view your hardships as redirects. So something redirects you. A few weeks ago, I decided to also go back to school because I decided that I wanted to feel more rooted in what it was that I did. I wanted to be able to say that I have a registration number and that I have a diploma so that I can feel really, really connected to what it is that I do. Am I enough as I am? Yes. But would it be even better to be able to say to myself, I'm educated to help people and I know that I am? Yes, it would. I have my certification in life coaching and that was something I needed to do for myself, but now I've decided to go one step further and go back to a diploma program. And so I'm going to go through this list again. So if you have a fear of being seen, but you would like to help people, then remember what judgment really is. Remember that it is solely the person who is judging you. It's their context of reality. None of it's wrong. None of it's right. And the person receiving the judgment, that often it is your fear of your inadequacy that makes judgment so painful. So find evidence of your worth. Find how you are not inadequate. Find how you are more than inadequate, more than adequate. Shift your focus to what it is that you want to do, and that helping people will propel you forward if that's what feels good. Surrender. Surrender to the experiences that will happen regardless. Surrender to the fact that you are inherently worthy. Surrender to the essence of this life. Practice safety. Find ways to feel safe in your body and then hit that post button or call that friend or meet that client. Remember that as your light shines, that the brighter you get, the more you will invite people in, but the more that you will push people out. And all of that is fine. And all of that is by design. And finally, my bonus tip was view your hardships as redirects. If you are fearful of being seen, then remember that if anything scary does happen as a result of you being seen, that it may just shift you into an even bigger and broader version of who you've always been. So I am so grateful for today, for you listening, and I hope that by me sharing my story vulnerably and openly, without judgment or unkindness, but simply to let you in on some of the experiences that I've gone through and some of the pain that has ensued as a result. Some of the ways that I've got through it and some of the ways that I continue to get through any sort of low self-worth, tiredness, burnout, and the fear of being seen. Thank you for being here and have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this last episode, then consider rating the podcast. Those few seconds that it takes makes a huge difference. Also, if you are interested in mentorship, transformational programs, or reading the book Unbroken, Rising Above, Thriving Within, then take a look at the show notes for all the resources and links. Always remember, you can overcome any obstacle. Let's do this together.